Hmm. So this is about throw keyword. Okay, not throws keyword, throw keyword it is. So the class name is throw demo. You just see in the class throw demo, I have written the method called as demo proc. So in demo proc, in try block, I have written the keyword throw. In front of throw keyword, I have to use the new keyword. In front of new keyword, I have to write the null pointer exception, that is class name. You can use another class name also. Here, for example, I have used a null pointer exception. Null pointer exception of a demo. Okay, demo is a string. That means I have used a constructor with string parameter. So constructor with no parameter, constructor with a string parameter. Two things are there: default constructor and constructor with one parameter. Okay, that is of type string. So wherever we write the try, we have to write the catch block to handle the exception. So in the demo proc method, I have written the catch block. And see, whatever the class name you use at this particular line, the same class name you have to use in the catch block, okay, so that it will match. So catch block will handle this error. So in catch block, I have written println statement. The message is caught inside a demo proc. So throw E. So throw E means see, we have come from the main method. Program control will come from the main method. So program control will return back to the main method. Okay. So that is for this try. And whenever it comes for this try block, 100% will go for the catch block. Okay, because there is an exception. So this line itself is causing an exception because the method is called. Okay. Now we'll execute this program. So you just see how it displays. See, caught inside a demo proc, recaught java.lang null pointer exception. So this is the output of the program. Okay. See, if at all, if I don't use any try block or any exception, nothing, how this program will look is like, see, if I remove this much. Okay. Say this is how the program works, but still it executes without creating any exception. Okay, I have not created any exception. So for this output will be caught inside demo proc. Just one message it will print. You can write any message just to know whether program control has come to this line or not. See now if I execute this program, you just see. See caught inside demo proc. So there is no error, just one message is displayed. Okay. So if I am making any exception, that means if I am writing throw keyword, then this much coding should be required because of this throw keyword. That means I am making an exception intentionally. So if you are making exception intentionally, then you have to put in try block and catch block. So in main method also you have to put in try block and catch block. Okay. Then coming to the throws keyword. So here I have, I think, one program. So throws keyword, see here. First program what they have used is like using the throws, using the method call, that is calling the method throw one. But inside that, if I use a throw keyword, what happens? Okay, you just see. I use a throw keyword. You see here, red mark means it is an error. Unreported exception, illegal access exception must be caught or declared to be thrown. The meaning of this is, so I have used the keyword throw. Wherever you use keyword throw, that statement indicates exception. And if there is an exception, you have to report. So it is saying, say, unreported exception. Report means you have to put in try and catch. If you don't put in try and catch, then it is an error. So this program will not compile. Okay, so if you try to execute, if you directly execute also, it will show error only. See, one or more projects is compiled with errors. Okay, so it will not. If I say run anyway, see here on the output screen only we are getting an error message here. Okay, so only one message is displayed inside throw one, but after that we are getting error. Exception in threadbin, java.lang.runtime exception, uncompatible source code, unreported exception, all the error message is displaying. These are all nothing but compile time errors only. Okay. So in the next program, so modification is there. That means in this program you see. So there is a modification. Okay. So that modification is nothing but, so I have used throws keyword in the method declaration. Throws keyword, after that throws keyword illegal access exception. That means whatever the exception class name I am using in case of throw keyword, same thing, and throws keyword I have used. And inside the main method I have put in try and catch. So this program now it will compile and it will execute. So we'll try to execute this. Okay. Actually, in entire project, if there is an error, it will not compile. Let me comment this line. Okay, so this is treating like a one project. This complete exception package, it's treating like a project. We'll go for this program. So now it will execute. Could not find load method. Okay. See here, inside throw one, caught java.lang.illegal access exception demo. So this much output we are getting because you have used throws keyword, try and catch block also I have used. Okay, this is about throw one, throws keyword. Okay. So if you have any doubts, you can ask. So in the exception handling chapter, we have keywords try, catch, throw, throws. Last one is finally. Okay. So this keyword is finally. So I think because of that word only, this is the last topic, last keyword it is, the finally keyword. Okay. So exception handling finally. The finally creates a block of code that will be executed after try catch block has completed and before the code following the try catch block. The finally block will execute whether or not exception is thrown. If an exception is thrown, the finally block will execute even if no catch statement matches the exception. The finally clause is optional. However, each try statement require at least one catch statement or a finally clause. So what they're telling here, finally keyword indicates that is one block, just like try block. Finally keyword is a one block. You just see in this program. Finally, after finally keyword, opening brace and closing brace have written some statement. It is one block, and that will be executed whether there is an exception or not. That will be executed compulsory. If you are using finally block means it will be executed. See here, the finally block will execute whether or not exception is thrown. That means it is not at all dependent on the exception. If the exception is there, catch block will handle and finally will be executed. If the exception is not there, only if I am using try block and finally block, then finally block is executed. So if an exception is thrown, the finally block will execute even if no catch statement matches the exception. The finally clause is optional. So one more thing what they are telling is finally keyword is optional. So till now we have not used the finally keyword. Yes, the program still executes. It is not compulsory that you have to use finally block. Just like try and catch block, it is not compulsory that you have to use finally block. However, each try statement require at least one catch statement or a finally clause. So whenever we are using try block, either you have to use catch block or a finally. If you are using catch block and finally block, okay, it's okay. But if you are not using any one, either the catch block or finally, then it is an error. So whenever you are using try block, at least catch block or finally or both. Okay. See here in this program. So example program that shows three methods that exit in various ways, executing their finally clauses. Demonstrate finally. So class finally demo static void a, one method name is a. So in this I have used try and finally. See, look here. I have not used catch block, but I have used finally. Yes, still it is okay. Okay. So whenever you are using try block, either use catch or finally or both. That means at least one, or you can use both also. Okay. So you can use one or both. So if you're using catch block and if you're not using finally, yes, it's correct. If you're using finally, if you're not using catch block, yes, that is also correct. If you're using both catch and finally, that is also correct. But at least one should be present, catch or finally. Okay. So for this method, I'm using try and finally, not try and catch, try and finally. Yes, it is correct. And for B also, I'm using try and finally. Okay, and for C also, try and finally, I'm using catch block or not use. Yes, still it is correct. Okay, either catch block or finally, you have to use it. So in the main method, I use try and catch. Okay, so how this will execute, you just see in this diagram. So in the main method, in the try block, I have called the method A. Okay, I have called the method A. So we will see whether exception is there or not, because whenever we use a try and catch, the thing is what we expect, there is an exception. Okay, we will see what happens. So when this method is called, so program control will come to this method. Okay, that is static void A. So in this method, what it is present? System.out.println inside A, this message is printed. Here there is an exception. Exception means we have made intentionally, we have made exception. If this line is not there, means there is no exception, because just because I have written this line, this will not cause error. I have not made a divide by zero error or array index of robots exception. Nothing I have made. Just I am printing one message inside here. This message will not cause any error. Okay, we can directly say there is no error. But if I am using this sentence, throw new runtime exception, then this is an error. And whenever you come across the error, what should happen? Catch block should handle. Okay. So if catch block is not there, if finally is there, at least it should go to the finally. So you just look at the diagram. Okay. So in method A, there is an error. Okay, there is an error, and there is no catch block, but there is a finally keyword. In try and catch blocks, what happens? If you are using catch block, the program control will move to the catch block after we get an exception. Or else, if I'm using finally keyword, it will go to the finally block. So you just see, after try block of method A, program control will come to the finally keyword. Okay, program control will come to the finally keyword. In finally keyword, in finally block, we have the system.out.println is finally. This message will be printed. First message is inside A, second message is is finally. So if you observe after try and finally, that method will be completed. Okay, just try to understand. After execution of try and finally of method A, this method itself is completed. If this method is completed, program control where it has to go, from where it has come to that line it has to go. So from where it has come, from main method it has come. So from in main method, from which line? From this line. See, from this line, program control is moved to the method A. Okay, you just look at it. It is clear. I have mentioned clearly. From this line, it is moved to the method A. So after completion of method A, that is after executing try and finally, it will come back to the same line. That is this line. You just look at the arrow put to this line only. It will come. When program control comes to this line, so there is an exception in the try block. Because there is an exception in the try block, I have put that method call in try block. Okay, so there is a catch block here. See, error is there. We have made intentionally one error in the try block of method A, so that it can handle. How means inside main method I have the catch block, so this will handle. So only it is coming to the catch block. So inside catch block there is a message exception caught. Understood? I think you people are getting. There is a message called as exception caught. Okay. So this is how method A will execute. So we have to understand how three methods are executed. So first method is executed, that is method A. Try block of method A is executed. Finally block of method A is executed. It will come to the main method. In the main method we have the catch block. So catch block is executed. And coming to the method B. So in method B, what I have written, we will see. So when program control comes to the method B, okay. So in method B, I have written the println statement inside B. Okay, I have written the println statement inside B. And you see here, in entire try block of method B, there is no error at all. There is no divide by zero error, no array index or open exception, or even I have not used throw keyword to make error intentionally, nothing have used. That means there is no error at all. So if there is no error in the try block, it doesn't mean that we should not add these statements in try block. So why we write a try block means, if at all if I am getting some error during program execution, let that try and catch block can handle. For that purpose, we will write the statement. If there is no error, it's okay, it will execute normally. So after the statement, what is the statement present? Return. Return keyword is present. Return indicates the program control has to return to the main method. Return keyword indicates the program control has to return to the main method. So when it comes to the main method, there is another method called as C. Okay, there is another method called as C. So this method will execute. But you see what happens before it comes to the main method. In the method B, we have the finally keyword, right? In the method B, we have the finally keyword. So before program control comes to the main method, finally block will execute and it will return back. So without executing finally block, the program control will not return to the main method. So finally block will execute. So our output will be, for method B, our output will be inside B, B is finally. Inside B, B is finally. This is the output. Now coming to the method C, we will see how method C will execute. So program control will come to the method C. Okay, when it comes to the method C, I have put try and finally. Okay, I have put try and finally. So in case of C, I have not written return keyword. But what happens here? The statement present in try block is executed. The statement present in finally block is executed. So there is no error, but finally block is executed. See, finally block means it will execute whether there is an error or if there is no error. In both cases, it will execute. Whereas catch block will execute only if there is an error. Okay. So finally block will execute whether error is present or not. It doesn't matter. It will execute. So it will print inside C. That is C is finally. So you just look at the diagram here. So from method call A, it will move to the method A. That method A will execute. After that, there is a finally keyword in method A. It will come back to the main method, executing the catch block. Because in method A, we have made intentionally one error, throw new runtime exception. But in method B and method C, I have not made any error. So try and finally will execute and return back to the main method. Okay. So this is the output. You just observe the output. And some explanation is there with respect to this program. So we'll see how they have explained this program. Okay. So in the above program, method A breaks out of the try by throwing an exception. The finally clause is executed on the way out. B's try statement. Okay. Up to here, there's an understanding of method A. Afterwards, we have to start with method B. Okay. So up to here, it belongs to method A. That means A breaks out of the try by throwing an exception. The finally clause is executed on the way out. On the way out means before it goes to the main method, finally block of A will execute. Okay. And in case of B method, B's try statement exits via return statement. The finally clause is executed before B returns. See, this is very important because whenever we come across this type of statement, generally how we get confusion is return keyword means wherever return keyword comes in the method, generally it is not related to try and block. Wherever we come across return keyword in method, it will return to the main method. Main method means from where it has come. From which method it has come, for that method program control will return. But here, this is the special case. Before the program control returns to the main method, it will execute finally and then it will return. This point you have to understand. If suppose if we understand that, okay, return keyword will return program control to the main method directly, then what we feel that this statement is not executed, because from here only it will return to the main method. So one extra step what we have to understand is, before B returns to the main method, it will execute finally and then returns. That statement you have mentioned is clearly. B's try statement exits. Exits means it will stop working and it will move to the main method via return statement. The finally clause is executed before B returns. This statement is very important. Finally clause will, in interview, they may ask this question. Some code will be there where finally keyword will be there and return keyword will be there, just to make you confused. And they will tell to write the output. Sometimes what happens, we think that, okay, return statement will return to the main method, so this statement will not be printed. So we'll write only inside wait. So we will get error. That means that output is not correct. So this point you have to understand. The finally clause is executed before the B return. In C, the try statement executes normally without error. However, the finally block is executed. So there is no return statement. So try block is executed normally. Finally block is also executed normally. So this is the output. Note, if a finally block is associated with a try, the finally block will be executed upon conclusion of the try. See, this point is very important. That means whenever we write finally block with the try, if there is an error after completion of the error handling, finally block will execute. If there is no error, finally, the word itself indicates finally it has to execute. Whether there is an error or not, it should execute finally. So only they're telling if a finally block is associated with the try, the finally block will be executed upon the conclusion of the try. Upon the conclusion of the try means whether there is an error or not. A conclusion means if there is an error also, that is the conclusion. If there is no error also, that is the conclusion. If there is an error, catch block will handle, then finally will execute. If there is no error, directly finally will execute. So finally block will execute 100%, compulsory, whether error is there or not. So only they have used the keyword finally. Okay, we can look at this output as well as this program execution part diagram. If you have any doubts, you can ask.